Hey guys, Abby here. In today's video, we're going to be doing something a little bit different, and I'll be telling you, in my opinion, which are the easiest heroes to play and which are the hardest heroes to play. As always, S is going to be the hardest heroes to play, and then, D is going to be the easiest heroes to play. So let's not waste any time and let's get straight up and into it. Starting us off is Cassidy. Cassidy is a to FPS gamers, is a very familiar character, and he is not that hard to play. He's relatively very easy to pick up, very easy to understand, simple kit, simple ult, very straightforward. Some little unique mechanics to the way that you can use his ultimate and roll, but overall he's not that hard to play, nor is he too easy to play. You do have to be good at flicking, landing your shots, etc., as well as using your ultimates at the right times, either to make the opponent kite away from point and create or zone them out, as well as using your ultimate every now and then to secure one or two kills. Next up, we got Reaper. Reaper is unbelievably easy to play, but he's not super easy to play. So I will put him at C. And Reaper, you just need to have a good understanding of how to use his cooldown rotation. After that, the character is pretty simple in the way that he flanks, the way he could just burst down tanks. It's literally just hold W and mouse 1, and it's really simple and straightforward. Also, I'm still sick, so I'm sorry if my voice sounds here and there, right? May. May is the same as Cassidy. There are some people that are going to disagree with this take, but again, my opinion, May is really not that difficult to play. She's a lot easier to play in 5v5. She's very strong into a lot of things, and I just feel like because May is not a popular character from the perspective of, popularity and things like that, a lot of people refuse to play her. She's also somewhat boring to play. And because of that, the few people that do play Mei tend to be very competitive and they understand how to utilize it. Now, Mei is very easy to pick up. She can be boiled down to a poke damage spam hero, or just walk up to the enemy tank, hold left click and let your tank delete them, or walk up to the, just like she has her 100 DPS freeze flamethrower gun again that can just delete targets, and against certain supports and certain DPS, she just like makes them feel helpless. So I would say that her skill expression is more in the wall. That good mains really understand how to use their walls to isolate tanks, cut off line of sight to shut down healing. But other than that, the rest of Mei is again pretty simple, straightforward. Um, there are some unique ways that you can interact with Mei with the rest of the cast, but I wouldn't put her as some of the hardest characters to play. Nor would I put her down there with like the Reaper tier of, okay, just understand one thing and the rest of the character just kind of plays itself. Although Mei can be annoying, I would say Cassidy is still a little bit more skill required than her, so we'll put Cassidy above Mei. Bastion. I hate to say this, but Bastion is a brain dead hero. He's unbelievably easy to play. The gameplay style that he wants to promote as well makes his job easier for him. And the character is very simple to understand, very traditional FPS like kit. And most importantly, it's just, walk up as soon as the enemy tank starts to engage, you hit shift, you spray them down, and you kill the rest. He has no unique mechanics in the way that he wants to take his engagements. It's pretty much just damage. Very easy to pick up. Back in Overwatch 1 as well, a lot of people that were new to the game picked up Bastion because, oh, this character, I just lock him and I burst down shields, I burst down tanks. It's so easy. Yeah, that works in low elo, and even nowadays, it's kind of what's working in somewhat mid to high tier elo as well, given how they've made Bastion work. So, Bastion, incredibly easy to play, very easy to pick up, and really doesn't have a high skill ceiling. He's just the shooty guy, right? Pharah. Okay, so Pharah I'm going to put in A. Pharah is incredibly difficult to play when you're in lobbies where everybody knows what to do, how to use natural cover, how to take fights inside a natural cover, and all sorts of things. And when you have like so many characters on the roster that can either soft or hard counter you if they know what they're doing, playing Fire can feel incredibly difficult with the way the how high healing is and everything right now. You have to land those directs with Farah. Otherwise, it can feel really tough deleting a backline or bursting down a tank. She's really difficult to play nowadays. She can be boiled down to again another spam type of character, but that playstyle just doesn't work. You really do have to land those directs, and it can be difficult with the different model sizes as well as the movement speeds of certain characters depending on who they are. So Farah, definitely above Cass and May, I would say, right? And not just that, but because she's relatively easier to counter as well, playing her into her counters can make her life a living hell, which just adds on to the difficulty of the character, right? Um, and I guess even if you ignore that, like, okay, let's not talk about counters and everything, because then the list can change. Um, Understanding how to use a concussion mine, using a well-timed barrage, all of these things can be very difficult given how many resources there are that can either pressure or shut down Farah completely. She's definitely one of the harder characters to play, and that also brings us to Hanzo. Hanzo, I always put him right next to Cassidy. He's just the projectile equivalent of Cassidy. His ult can be used sometimes to get kills. It pairs really well with the Graviton Surge and everything. It's I will use the headshot potential to put it. Actually, I am kind of debating on putting Hanzo in A. That he is a little bit harder to play than people give him credit for. Uh, but I think I will keep him in B. Simply because again, nowadays with the way certain interactions work with the supports, especially like Illari and Bap, playing Hanzo feels a lot more difficult. And even against dive comps, Hanzo can feel just useless, and against the when we were in the Orisa meta, Hanzo was just almost non-existent. But again, kind of forgetting about all of that, becoming really good at Hanzo and being able to predict movement and line up your shots and land them can be challenging. Storm Arrow is definitely the easy part of the character, and his ultimate is relatively simple and straightforward. But because he's a projectile character and he has to account for travel time and the movement and having to be very careful with his positioning, I would make him above Cassidy. That he's definitely a little bit more difficult to play. Tracer is by far one of, if not the hardest character in this game to play. And there's a plethora of reasons for that. But again, I want to keep the video short and keep it simple. But if you guys want to know more, then leave a comment down below, and that's where we'll discuss it. Tracer has to manage her blinks. Good Tracer players are never about their aim and all that type of stuff. Good Tracer players are all about utilizing their blinks, saving a blink or two to use accordingly with their engagements, to bait out cooldowns, to create favorable situations, to isolate a support in the backline, even though that doesn't happen that much these days, which makes a Tracer even harder to play. And that kind of goes for characters like Genji and Sombra as well, that we'll talk about a little bit later. So definitely Tracer is one of the hardest characters to play. It's not easy for anybody to pick her up, right? Um, you have to keep a lot of things in mind when you're playing Tracers. Like, you have to think like, okay, I'm about to go on this Ana. Does she have her cooldowns? Am I in a safe position to start damaging her? Is she going to anti me? So for Tracer, because you're practically you could get one shot by anything in this game, it is really important that you do not mess up, right? So Tracer, one of, if not the hardest character to play in Overwatch, arguably, of course, because I do believe there is two other characters that now fit this genre, and we'll talk about them a little bit later. So Soldier 76, very similar to um, Reaper. Uh, you just need to know how to use the base kit, and the character is really easy. Actually, I'm going to drop him just above Bastion, simply because it does require a little bit more skill to play Soldier, because you don't have the forgiving like machine gun volley and things like that. You have to be good with your tracking skills and everything. But Soldier is usually the character that you recommend to anybody new joining Overwatch, that hey, come in, like pick up these two characters or Reaper, and kind of go with them and see how you feel, right? In fact, you know what? Let's do this, right? Let's just turn this into easy. Let's just turn this into mid, and let's just turn this into challenging, and this one into hard, right? So let's just do that, right? Um, and this one can be introductory level, right? So this is like introductory characters. There's like, if you're new to FPS or you're familiar with FPS but you don't know the rest of Overwatch yet, these are definitely the characters for you, right? And as you kind of learn the game and everything and how to do cooldown rotations and all that type of stuff, then we enter the easy tier and we go from there, and interactions and value and all that type of stuff. Torbjorn is also incredibly easy to play. Although, while I do think he's really easy to play, I wouldn't necessarily put him in introductory. He's very simple to understand. It really isn't that hard to understand as well, like how to position his turrets and things like that. But the one thing you definitely want to be a little bit more careful of, which puts him in the easy tier, is you just have to be careful with the way you use your overload. Overload kind of, is what differentiates a good Tor from a bad Tor player, because they understand when to use it. And spoilers alert, it's honestly one of the best uses for Overlord is, okay, if the tank is pushing in, just use it to either poke them down, or if he's in your face, burst them down. Like Torb is an amazing Reaper counter. Sorry, Winston counter more than even Reaper is, right? So Torb is above Reaper because Torb can be a little bit more difficult to play than Reaper, because Reaper has some get out of jail free cards, but if Torb get isolated, it's kind of over for him, right? But he's easy to play, very easy to pick up because of his spam potential and all that type of stuff, right? Sojourn, challenging character to play. She's not easy. She can feel frustrating to play against sometimes, but honestly, we're not even in like a meta. Like Sojourn's almost back to her fully powered season 1 state, and I've not seen anybody complain about her. And I just kind of feel like with the way they've changed up tanks and supports, like Sojourn's a lot more healthier now. And the way I see it is like you have to be really good at balancing out those two different aim styles, and positioning is very key in her. And um, she can feel really weak and pathetic in certain situations, especially like if these other characters below her are in a position where they are kind of isolating the Sojourn. She is good into Torb Reaper and things like that, but from a general gameplay perspective, like as you're trying to get better, Sojourn is definitely going to be more challenging to play, because the number one thing you have to manage really well uh, isn't actually your ability to do the two different aim styles of projectile and hit scan. It's actually your movement. A lot of Sojourn players are terrible with her movement, and because of that, more often than not, they end up finding themselves in these positions where they end up isolating themselves. I've played a lot into Sojourn in the previous season and this season here and there, and the one thing that I noticed was a lot of Sojourn players are just not good at using her shift, and it puts them in these really, really bad spots, right? So challenging from two perspectives. She's very aim intensive. Have to account for the two different aim styles to be as consistent on her as possible. Um, and most importantly, like managing her movement and understanding when and where to use it definitely makes her a challenging character to play. I see her as basically like a hit scan ish Genji, right? She's this like combo character where she wants to do like the projectile shots and then combo it up with the railgun shot. Sombra. Okay, so Sombra is, this one's interesting because I actually think Sombra is challenging, and that's because with the current state of season 7, where supports are still really, really strong, we're not even in the mid-season patch. This is as of 25th October, and Sombra can feel really challenging to play simply because there are a lot of support cooldowns and tank cooldowns and some DPS that can make your life a living hell. Like for example, like you're playing Sombra, they have Torb. You can barely do what you want to do on the character because that passive turret pressure is crazy. Even like Iliari's pylon, like because there's so many things that require Sombra to divide her attention to. That's just not the type of character she has to be. And in the current state of the game, she can feel really challenging to play. She's very balanced. Like you know the difference between a good or bad Sombra. Like you have to be swapping up between two different playstyles all the time. One moment you're playing flanker. One moment you're basically playing Sombra 76 up front with your tank trying to burst on the other tank. And understanding the rotation of playstyles as well as like calling out key cooldowns and timing good EMPs is very difficult because of the way they nerfed EMP. So Sombra definitely a challenging character to play. Not mid that okay, it's relatively simple to pick up and understand. Challenging to play that yeah, you can pick her up, but you really need to understand how her cooldown rotations work and everything else that I spoke about. Junkrat. Oh boy. So he's not introductory level easy, but he's definitely an easy character. Now, I know there are some Junkrat warlords out there that like they know a lot on the character and they can really push this character to the limit and do some crazy things on him. But it's really inconsistent, and there's only like two people that can do that. I believe one of them is Aquamarine, and there's another Aqua as well that is a Junkrat player. I'm not entirely sure. I do think it's Aquamarine because I played with him and ranked a few times back in the day. And so Junkrat, from a general player perspective, he's very easy to pick up, and because in these like mid to lower elo games, people are not that good with their movement. It can feel really easy to just isolate people and delete them with his grenades and all that type of stuff, right? So for sure, Junkrat is one of those easy characters who can you know uh like he's easy, he's fun to play, but his skill ceiling isn't that high. Like, yeah, if you're extremely dedicated you can, but he just gets countered and pressured by everything above him really easily, even below him. um he's just really really awkward into when it comes to dueling, right? Other than his one shot combo, which can be inconsistent nowadays, um the current state of Junkrat, just he's easy to play. You have to understand how to use his combos, but they're very limited and they can feel very inconsistent. So yeah, good in low ranks, but nothing beyond that. But easy to play character, nothing too crazy, just a spam and spray and pray spam and spamming type of character. Symmetra, okay, hot take. I want to put her in challenging, but I will put her in mid, right? And that's just because oh no, actually no. I will put Sim in challenging, but just behind Sombra. So again, we apply the principles of Sojourn to Sim, where they have to balance the two different aim styles to bring out max value. But the way Symmetra's kit works and the stuff that she has to do to find value, actually, she's a little bit more challenging than Sombra. I don't know. Um, because one of the unique things about Symmetra is using her teleporter in different ways um, can bring so much value. If you know how to TP bomb, if you know how to use teleport to flank and all this type of stuff, there's a lot of things that you can do that people don't expect on Sim. So, like, while on paper she seems like an easy to play character or mid character, the skill ceiling of what she is able to do and the way that she can even use her shields to cut off line of sights, like some really smart Symmetra players I've seen in ranked, can create like some really oppressive situations, and that ult comes to line very quick. So if you understand Symmetra's kit and everything, and you know how to use her cooldowns, um, she's definitely like a little bit harder to play than more people give her credit for. I'm still debating on it. I'm thinking maybe mid tier or challenging tier, but honestly, I will leave her in challenging. She's definitely a little bit easier to play because there is just a way of like farming up the tank, getting your beam up, and mowing people down. But the max value of the character is challenging for the average player to get a full grasp of, right? Because if you go to the rank leaderboards, there's always that like one sim in every 50 players. Like in EU, there was a player called Biscuit. Man, Biscuit, if you ever see these videos, you are a legend for the way that you can make sim work almost anywhere. Uh, they're a great person. I've had the pleasure of playing with them last year early in Overwatch 2, and haven't seen them much. Maybe this meta just isn't for them and they're taking a break. But yeah, so Symmetra definitely a little bit more of a challenging character because of the way her kit is in order to get max value, right? That brings us to Iliari. She's hard to play. I'm sorry. I know she's a support, but she basically is a DPS. But in general, like spoilers alert for the support video, she's hard to play, and we'll talk about that during support day, right? Echo is hard to play. Widow, okay, this is going to be a boiling hot take, right? And we'll talk about this. Okay, we'll talk about this. And I'm going to make a lot of people upset, right? Because there's a principle that we need to think about. Widowmaker, quote unquote, is easy to play because the only thing you really, really need to be thinking about and the only thing that you should be focused on is your aim. There's no other, like, there's nothing else in her kit that is of value. So like everything that you use is just to like either notify yourself of like like your venom mine is to notify yourself if there's a flanker coming or somebody's coming to your position, and her hook is to just allow her to set up a shot. So from that perspective, when it comes to playing Widowmaker and picking the character up, she's again a generic character that is pretty much just I pick her up and I do the thing, like I just snipe people, I shoot heads. So from that perspective, I will say that Widowmaker is easy to play, and it's under that constitution of aim, right? Because a good Widowmaker can make lobbies feel easy, and let's be real, that it's a point and click adventure for that guy, right? Even in your average lobbies, if you can land um, a decent amount of shots, not all of them, but a decent amount of shots, you can control the game really, really well with the way the Widowmaker can bring pressure. But from an overall kit and design perspective as to what Widowmaker is designed to do, let's kind of be real here. She is easy to play in that she can sit a decent distance away. She can just focus on her aim, let her team play the game. Yes, it can be easy to isolate her as flankers and things like that. But overall, the characters is easy to play, but If we don't agree with easy, I will put her at the bottom of mid tier. Like uh, she's kind of like just you. All you require is this aim, and that's it. That's realistically it, right? Even your infra sight, it benefits you the most out of everybody that gets to use it, right? So that's what I'm saying. Moving on to Ash. Ash is in the same area with Widowmaker, pretty much just um, like a semi-automatic rifle character, um, and she's similar to Widowmaker, but she does have some mechanics on her that can bring more value with the way dynamite works, with the way you can use coach gun creatively. She's really relatively simple and straightforward, so I wouldn't put Ash in easy or introductory level character. I will put her in mid tier, maybe right in front of Widowmaker, because while Widow is a lot more aim focused, Ash does need to find value, especially with Dynamite and Bob, to get more value out of her. So Ash can definitely be a mid tier character, not at that level of challenging with what you have to do, because Bob is just a big oversized Torb turret that can do burst damage. Um, but definitely like a lot easier to play and things like that, right? Again, all of this is subject to my opinion. You guys can disagree and give me your own takes. I'd love to discuss it. Finally, it comes down to Genji and Genji and hard. I will actually put him in front of Echo, but behind Tracer, and I will talk about that after I sneeze. But Genji, I've put him in hard, one of the hardest characters to play. I would actually argue that nowadays, with the way that the game has become in 5v5, with the amount of things that can passively pressure Genji and Tracer, whatever pressures Genji nowadays pressures Tracer too. That I would actually say Genji and Tracer are on that same level of how difficult they are to play, because they have to respect so many cooldowns, so many abilities before they can actually go in and do their own thing. And again, yeah, both Genji Tracer can be kind of boiled down to characters that, oh, well, you just spam and you can win. It's not as easy as that, because to bring out the maximum value, Genji has 3 different projectiles that he needs to land, and Tracer's overall spread can betray her in a lot of different situations. So that's why like they're some of the hardest characters to play. And not even mentioning for the fact that when you use deflect with Genji, the skill ceiling for Genji goes incredibly high. With you have to be really good and consistent at your dash combos, and that kind of brings in Echo in this as well. I will say that Echo from the hardest characters is a little bit easier to play, because overall her kit is simple to pick up. You just need to know how to do her burst damage combos. Um, and she's very oppressive against tanks. She can feel once you get the hang of her, she's really really powerful. So she doesn't have it that bad as Genji and Tracer do, and you can always throw a mercy pocket onto Echo, and it's a lot more risky to put a mercy pocket on a character like Genji and Tracer for the mercy player. So it's not really that worth it. But when it comes back to Echo, definitely the hardest part about her that makes her very very difficult to understand how to get value out of in situations is the fact that you need to know how to play at least a little bit of every character in this game in order for your echo copies to get max value, right? So that's going to be it, and that's going to be it for my DPS tier list video, everyone. Sorry, still really really sick, so haven't really had the time to sit down and craft something a little bit more creative. So I thought for the next 2 3 days I just kind of do like a little tier list video and talk to you guys about who do you think are the hardest characters to play. So today's video, let's talk about DPS. Do you agree with my list? Do you disagree with it? Feel free to let me know in the comment sections down below. And as always, if you want to support the channel for free, just hit like and subscribe. That's the best way to do it. And if you want to support me financially, just use the super chat feature. I got Patreon and stuff like that coming next week once I feel better and I can get around to it. With that being said, I will see you guys in the next video.